Hello there, this is Bic Benedict. We're playing Max Payne 3. Excuse me for a second. I just have to make sure that I close all the programs that are running right now and make sure that I maximize this voice recorder so that it doesn't pause itself after I've done a 20-minute commentary. Do you guys know what I did? I did this entire video with audio commentary, striking gold in many a place. Striking, you know, that kind of gold where it can never get retained again. You can never retain it because the second time through you try to aspire to that gold you hit and you just keep falling flat in the attempt. So I think that's the worst thing that could possibly happen on these video recordings. So in an effort to make these a little bit more lighthearted, I won't be going over every fight, and some of you probably will be annoyed by that fact since this is a channel that tries to always focus on the gameplay. But sometimes on really easy sections, it isn't necessary for me to tell you, you know, shoot this guy in the head, shoot that guy in the head. I mean, just keep shooting them in the head. It takes like 2 shots and they're dead. I don't understand this difficulty, but I think it's the same all across the board. I think the only variable is the damage you take. I think that's it. But let's still try to strike gold, you guys, as best as we can. We have clues in this vicinity, so I won't be talking over that. So after you kill everybody, you want to backtrack because you cannot interact with these clues until everybody is dead. So here's the first clue. It is the notation of where Max was going to be. So that's the first clue. So you'll notice that when you go into these rooms, you walk a little bit more slowly. I don't know what that's for. I suspect it's not a frame rate issue or anything like that. Clue number 2 is Passos' bed, so you'll examine that. And the next clue is coming up. I'll tell you where it is, but it's not anywhere that is in this immediate vicinity. You'll be doing a couple more battles, in fact. So let me get a few things out of the way. Like I said, I wanted to at least tell what chapter we're on. We're on chapter 11 of 14, and it's an aquatic chapter, so to speak, and it's only really aquatic if you shoot dodge your way off of the boat trying to kill enemies. And there are a couple of places where backward shoot dodging really helps out, and up until the point where you fall into the Panama Canal and die. So no checkpoint here quite yet, you guys, so shoot these guys. And what we're going to be doing is do you see where that guy is? He's not really sure what he's doing. It doesn't look like it. But the visors will raise over here and you'll see the next clue. And it's really fascinating because sometimes there is a footprint by this blood stain here. See the blood stain? Sometimes there is a footprint, sometimes there's not, and I suspect that it's Max's footprint, that he's dirtying the blood stain, and it just shows his footprint. And it's just one of those things where it's not really about polish at that point. It's mostly about out of far-sighted consideration for just about everything. And I think that only games that are in like really long development cycles can ever hit that kind of consideration and forethought. And as much as I'm always pushing for, you know, where the fuck is my God of War 4? I wanted it yesterday. You know, there is that chance that it could be the next Ninja Gaiden 3, and we don't want that. We don't want that whatsoever. So I think that we could just trust Cory Barlog. And oh yeah, I wanted to mention this. First of all, before I mention this, do you see where they were prying at that door? That's one clue. But this clue here is before that one. It's the media piece on the table. And then you'll next inspect the wall where these guys were prying at. But it just says interact or examine wall. It doesn't have any monologue or anything that I know of. And that was the first time I've ever interacted with that. And then there are 2 more clues coming up here and no checkpoints. So this is the passport of Daphne, and I don't know who Daphne is. If she's a character in one of the earlier Max Paynes, then I feel bad because I don't have that context. However, I've looked her up on the story site for this, the wiki story for this game, and it just doesn't tell me much. So one guy is behind the bed. We're coming in here to get the jewelry box, which is the next clue. That guy was in the bathroom, and then there's one more guy like right next to the toilet behind the wall. So shoe dodge, or not shoe dodge, activate bullet time, and try not to have that happen, but you can't. So the jewelry box is the next clue. And just pardon my mouse clicks a little bit because I'm going to move this over here and make sure that the voice recorder doesn't stop. And I will mention the Quarry bar log thing in a minute. Hell, why not? Let's just talk about it now. This is the next checkpoint. You'll notice that there's 3 guys spawning in here, so move to the right, put the reticle on the left because there will be a guy right there. And I have some fancy stuff coming up for you here with just a bunch of shoe dodges that could never happen because they've gone through Vic Benedict's editing process. So what I was mentioning before on the God of War Payne Plus guide that I did, and if you haven't watched it yet, you really should. It's the finest work I've ever done. And I know that can only sound egotistical and make it think like I'm some kind of egoist or something, but I'm really just extremely proud of it. That I went through it, I didn't think it was possible to do it, and I came through out on the other side. I tried my absolute best, and my best was enough this time. And it was a fantastic project, and I just loved it. I loved my whole time with it. Somebody recently was asking, his name is Johnny, and he was commenting on my first God of War Ascension because you don't forget a name like that. Especially when some of his comments are a tad bit trollish. And if you're listening, sir, I'm not trying to offend you, but you have to be a little bit more tactful in your comments. You know, because there's a lot of times your comments, they seem trollish, man. So this guy, Johnny, was saying to me, why would you waste $40 on God of War 3 when it's an old game? It's a 5-year-old game, and it's not worth it or something. I don't want to paraphrase too much or try to put words into the guy's mouth, so to speak, even though he typed it, obviously, because we're not in communication. But I said to him, this 5-year-old game, sir, towers over most new games that come out and will come out. Towers over them and puts them to literal shame. And I just don't think that this guy can understand it. And wasting money is a subjective thing. For one person, wasting is not wasting, it's investing. I invested in God. I did not waste my money on God of War 3 Remastered. I had the time of my life playing that. No comment on that, even though what I just said does typify a comment, I suppose. But anyway, so there must have been some political reason that Santa Monica Studio wouldn't retweet my playlist for the God of War 3 guide, and I think some of the reasons I've expounded on, namely the fact that I think they looked through the playlist and saw a couple of titles that maybe were disagreeable to them and thought that it could give them bad press, because let's face it, they're a publisher. You know, they're publishing games, they're making money, and I said to myself, that's all fine and good. So then I said, well, maybe it doesn't have to end there. Maybe I'll take it to the director. Well, I should say that he didn't. Cory Barlog did not direct God of War 3. Stig Asmussen did. He's like a bald guy. He's kind of. I don't really care for him too much. I watched when I was sick. I watched a lot of God of War makings of, and Cory just seems like the kind of guy that really laid back, that I could get along with. And I said to myself, you know, even though he directed God of War 2, and even though he is directing God of War 4, you know, and even though I know there's a lot of even those in this sentence, and even though he didn't direct God of War 3, which I was trying to obtain a tweet for to get some publicity, I just went out on a whim. Sometimes you kind of go fishing, metaphorically, on YouTube just to see if you'll get a response from these people who don't need to respond to you. And the guy did respond, and it was the kindest thing I've ever seen, because I simply said, you know, it just didn't work out that Santa Monica would retweet my guide. Would you be obliged to do it? I realized you didn't direct God of War 3, but would you be obliged? And he said, let me see. I favorited this. I never favorite or retweet anything except if it really means a lot to me. So I'm just going to look through my notifications here and just scroll down real quick. I should be able to see it. It should pop out pretty quickly. Or is it? Sorry, I didn't have this. I just want to see the thread here. Okay, so this is what I said. Corey, on August 20th. Corey, I did a Payne Plus run for God of War 3 Remastered. Sony Santa Monica promised they'd retweet, but it never happened. Maybe you could? And then I sent him another message. Here's the playlist URL for my God of War 3 Remastered Payne Plus run and guide. And then I gave him the aforementioned playlist URL. I couldn't fit all that in one message, so I had to make it in 2 messages. Also, just when you're watching this video, make sure you mind the spawns here. It's very tricky. This is a hard part. So, one day I got a message that he had retweeted it. And I said, thanks, Corey. That meant a lot to me. And I didn't expect anything beyond that. And then he said something like a day later. My pleasure. Thank you for playing the stuff we make. Triple exclamation point. And three people favorited it. Only 2 of which are right here. Son of Seville favorited it, and as did I. And I guess who else? The other person who favorited it has his favorites on private or something. I don't know. But that meant a hell of a lot to me that guy did that. And as busy as he is, he took the time to retweet my guide. So God bless that guy. Such a nice guy. So I think I'm gonna buy God of War 4 because of that. You think Bic's going to buy God of War 4 when it comes out? Maybe I won't like God of War anymore at that point. Okay, you guys. So this is actually quite hard, and enemies are not at close proximity to you. However, multiple enemies are firing at you. So I've said before that the 2 ways you get damaged the most in this game, either or, sometimes both, is if enemies are at close proximity and or if enemies at close proximity to you are firing at you simultaneously. So it's either or, and sometimes it can be both. As in the example of the final boss, it will be a lot of enemies at close proximity firing at you. And I can't beat it. I've tried it for an hour now and I can't beat it. So don't worry. I am going to beat it. Because it doesn't look like you need to survive longer than like 2 minutes, and I can do that. And I know everybody else can do it. And I want everybody else to do it. I'm here to help, you know? I'm here to entertain in a very minor way, but I'm primarily here to help. So there's going to be a couple of cutscenes here where Passos moves up. You may have noticed that he has moved up now. And just be very careful here. They put the ammo in the back of that pickup truck at a very bad angle. Perhaps on purpose, but at least it's there for you to get unlimited ammunition. So what you're going to have to do now is go to the very top where I'm aiming up there right now and go down the zip wire. And I've been thinking a lot about Gears of War when I've been playing this game, just because in this game there isn't any hellacious sequences and like really nightmarish parts. Like every God of War has them. You know, God of War. God, it's so easy to say the wrong thing, but here's a checkpoint. In Gears of War 1, which part was it that was really hard? I don't think anything really until the final boss, but the final boss is enough. But in Gears of War 2, there was that Reaver section early on where there was a bunch of exposition, and you had to kill a Reaver insanely quickly, and it's really fucking tough, man. And then on Gears of War 3, there are numerous sections where you have to go a long way, do a lot of stuff without dying, and obviously the final boss is a pile of fucking dog trash. And then on Judgment, there was a couple of brutal sections. I remember having to use the hammer bursts on one part. to get the declassified or something. But I think that's a testament to how well this game is made, and also the fact that Gears of War, I don't think they've ever been able to do like a smooth gaming experience where the player is just not completely fucking frustrated to hell. Like, it's okay to be frustrated. Like, I know I'm going to be frustrated on the final boss of this game, but I know that it's just not even 1/10 of what has happened to me on like the Gears 1 boss. You know, I'm not talking about Gears 2 because there is no boss, but Gears 3, Hellacious, Gears Judgment is even harder than the Queen Mira fight, in my opinion. Even harder. So I think that it's good and bad that Gears of War is like that, because I think that it weeds out the people who are really good and who are really bad. But on this game, it's a more even experience, I think, all around. Dare I say, it is easier. It is easier, but that isn't to say it doesn't have a learning curve. It does. It's very challenging when you first play this game. And I mean, you could go through this game, you could take off the bullet time so that you can't slow down anything. That would be tough. But this game really wasn't designed like to be played like Gears of War. So hitting the switch right there will give you a checkpoint. This guy is right there for you to take out. There's only one clue left, and it is the visitor center, so don't worry, I will show you where it is. This is definitely the best thing to do. Go up the stairs, shoot dodge in a backwards manner, and then take care of these guys. My throat's giving a little bit. I need some water, man. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry if I say like God or Jesus on my videos. I'm not a religious person, so when I say, you know, when I take the Lord's name in vain or something like that, I'm not doing it out of any kind of spite or trying to, you know, say anything bad. But I don't believe that. I'm apathetic about it, and I'm not involved in religion, so. Anyway, that guy always stands right there. And this guy, let's see, is a backward shoot dodge advisable here? I don't think it is, only due to the fact that there's only one guy there. So, enemies in close proximity, multiple enemies in close proximity, so realize when you're playing this game that death will come a lot quicker than it normally does, just because of those two variables. So, the visitor center is straight ahead. Those two old timers doing something with that tripod or whatever they have right there, but we cannot interact with it quite yet. You might see me try to examine the display. That is the visitor center. It's the last thing you need to do on this chapter as far as examining the clues. A final guy to take care of. That is the conclusion of the chapter. First, we're going to backtrack, examine the display case so that we get all the clues. And now we're going to go to the roof and see the slaughter. And then the next chapter, I honestly can't remember what it is. I'm sorry, you guys. But you'll see shortly. And I will see you shortly. Take care.